Le'alam u'le'am haya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitma v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei Kudisha B'richu Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Ta'amiran ve'ama ve'imeru
Amen.
Titkabal sarotonu varhon decho Yisrael kodama v'hon divishmai ve'imeru
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael ve'imeru
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
Amen. We continue with the Psalm for Rosh Chodesh, page 34. You may be seated. The Psalm for Rosh Chodesh.
Baruchi nafshi et Adonai. Adonai Agudat
Hasayareach lemoadim Marabu masecha Adonai kulam b'chorma v'ita malat kinecha ze hayam ha'gadol Chadish b'nei Adam Shira Adonai b'chayai Yazam b'adonai Yirav alav siki anochi esmat Adonai Yitamu chatayim min ha'aretz v'rishayim odeinam Baruchi nafshi et Adonai Hallelujah.
Ye'erav alav sichi anohi esmach b'Adonai Yitamu chatay min haaretz u'reshayim odeinam Baruchi nafshi et Adonai Hallelujah.
Kaddish Avelim, Mourner's Kaddish, page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah ve'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam alamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei Kudisha B'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ve'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Chodesh tov.
Chodesh Tov.
And welcome to Congregation Agudat Achim's in-person and live-stream Shabbat morning service. My name is Rabbi Rafi Spitzer. Big Yasher Koach to Alexandra for leading us this morning in Shachrit and Hallel. It has now become our custom to pause at this point to mark some of the differences that we have in our service due to our efforts to keep everybody safe during this pandemic. First of all, this is a big Shabbat because we are celebrating Rosh Chodesh and Shabbat Shekalim, which means that usually we would take out 3 Sifrei Torah. It is a rare occurrence to take out 3 Torah scrolls, but this is a Shabbat where we would. As my father would say, it is a 3 Kugel Shabbos, because he would always prepare 3 different kinds of Kugel for a Shabbos on which we would take out 3 Torah scrolls. It is, as a result of a conversation in the ritual committee and at my recommendation, we are not taking out 3 Torah scrolls today, in part because we'd like to keep the service a little bit tighter so that we're not all in the same room for those of us who are here for a long period of time, in part because taking out 3 Torah scrolls requires a certain kind of dance on the bima about how many people are up here, and even if we said, okay, we'll take out 3 Torah scrolls, but only from the people in the same family, there aren't that many situations of that here where people are coming in with enough Jewish adults to be able to take out 3 Sifrei Torah. So, which Torah scroll are we not taking out today? We are not taking out the Torah scroll that has its the part that we would read from it also contained in our Musaf service. So, the Musaf service today, which is for Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh, includes specifically the verses from Numbers chapter 28 that are the Rosh Chodesh verses. That would be what we would usually take out for today as the second Torah scroll. So we're skipping that Torah scroll, and we're only taking out the Torah scroll for Parashat Mishpatim and the Torah scroll with the special maftir for Shabbat Shekalim, looking forward towards Passover. And as we go through this Passover cycle, we will continue to follow this ruling, which is that we're going to take out only the Sifrei Torah that are not contained in the Musaf service. So also on Passover, when it's customary to take out 2 Torah scrolls, one that has the Passover Torah reading and one that has the maftir for Passover, which is also contained in the Musaf, we will just take out one and skip the maftir Torah scroll that contains the verses from the book of Numbers that are also contained in Musaf. I will give that announcement again, as we will have other occasions for people to know that. Today what we're going to do is Alexandra is going to continue leading us, but she's going to lead from below. Howie's going to come up, since he's our Torah reader for today. He's going to take out the Torah scrolls, but he's going to leave one on the side and hold the other one. This isn't the most it isn't the most respectful or way to treat the Torah scrolls. Usually we would hold them, but I think it is safe an acknowledgement of our understanding of the best practices around this pandemic, and in order to keep everybody safe. Last comment, when we do the Hagba, which we are now doing at the beginning of our Torah service, anybody who has received an aliyah, an honor to the Torah, will not be coming up to stand next to the Torah, but will be doing their aliyah from the base of the bima. The Hagba is serving as our visual recognition of the words of the Torah. So if you have been given an aliyah, and even if you haven't, please make sure to have a visual recognition of the words of the Torah, so that when you say your brachot over your aliyah, you are thinking about them and have that in mind as you say the blessing. Again, Yasher Koach to Alexandra for leading us and for continuing to lead us. And we now turn to page 394 for the service for taking the Torah out of the ark.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'maasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai himloch leolam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Av ha'rachamim heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki hevecha levad patachnu, melech elam v'nisa Adon olamim.
We rise as the ark is open, page 394.
Vayhi bin Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, v'yafutzu oivecha, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך, כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. בריך שמי דמרי עלמא, בריך ישראל. בהנהר החץ ולשמי קדישה, קדישה יקירה, אנא המר תושבחן, יהי רהבה קודמך, דתפתח ליבי באורייתא, ותשלים משלין דליבי, וליבה דכל עמך ישראל, לטוב ולחיים ולשלום. אמן. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu l'Adonai iti, uneromema shemo yachdav, lecha Adonai, hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod, ki chol bashamayim u'ba'aretz, lecha Adonai, הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. רוממו, 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 אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, והשתחוו, לאדום רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו, רוממו, אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו, והשתחוו, להר קודשו כי קדוש, אדוני אלוהינו.
We remain standing for Hagbah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה.
You may be seated. This Shabbat we are reading from Parashat Mishpatim, where we left off at the end of last week's Torah portion, Parashat Yitro. The Israelites had just received the Torah, and they are encamped at the foot of Mount Sinai. They actually spend quite a bit of time at Mount Sinai itself. In fact, the travels of the Jewish people don't pick up again until Numbers chapter 11 or 12. So we actually are encamped at Sinai from Exodus chapter 20 all the way through Numbers chapter 11. It's going to be a long time, almost a year spent right there at the base of the mountain. And the revelation, which was, of course, that moment of theophany, continues through the enumeration of many details of laws that we are going to read some of this morning. You can find the first aliyah that we are going to read on page 465, Exodus chapter 22, verse 4. Vayazor v'yagim v'yoshia l'kol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amei makol ha'v'yolenu gavol ha'torah tamod.
Aharon abat Meir Yitzchak v'frama.
Aharon abat Meir Yitzchak v'frama. Aliyah harishona baruch shenatan Torah l'mo Yisrael b'kedushato. V'atem ha'devekim b'Adonai Elohechem chaim kolchem hayom.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch et Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki yaver ish sadeh cherem v'shilach et be'ira uvi'er basadeh אחר מיטב שדהו מיטב כרמו ישלם כי תצא איש ומצא קונים ונאכל גדיש או הקמה או השדה שלם ישלם ומעביר את הבארה כי ייתן איש אל רעהו כסף או כלים לשמור וגונב מבית האיש אם ימצא הגנב ישלם שניים אם לא ימצא הגנב ונקרב בעל הבית אל האלוהים אם לא שילח ידו ממלאכת רעהו על כל דבר פשע על שור על חמור על שא על שלמה על כל אבדה אשר יאמר כי הוא זה עד האלוהים יבוא דבר שניהם אשר ירשיעון אלוהים משלם שניים לרעהו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah temet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Rachel bat Eliezer b'Yocheved.
The second aliyah can be found on page 466, chapter 22, verse 9.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nata lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
אמן כי ייתן איש אל רעהו חמור או שור עושה וכל בהמה לשמור ומת או נשבע אין רואה שבועת אדוני תהיה בין שניהם אם לא שלח ידו במלאכת רעהו ולקח בעליו ולא ישלם ואם גנוב יגנב מאמו ישלם לבעליו אם טרוף יטרף יביאו עד הטרפה לא ישלם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nata lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Yamod. Dan Moshe ben Chaim v'Nani. Aliyah Shlishit. The third Aliyah can be found at the bottom of page 466, verse 13.
Baruch hu Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. וכי ישאל איש מאמרהו ונשבר עומד בעליו אין עמו שלם ישלם אם בעליו עמו לא ישלם אם שכיר הוא ובשכרו וכי יפתה איש בתולה שלו אורשיו ושכב עמה מהור ימהרנה לו לאישה אם אין אביה לתיתה לו כסף ישקול כמו הר הבדולות מכשפה לא תחיה כל שוכב עם בהמה מות יומת.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yamod. Aliyah Revi'it. The fourth Aliyah can be found on page 468, verse 19. We're thrilled that David and Amy have joined our congregation after moving up to the capital region earlier this past summer, and we're delighted that you're both here and welcome.
Thank you. Baruch hu et Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. זובח לאלוהים יחרם, בלתי לאדוני לבדו, וגר לא תונה ולא תלחצנו, כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים, כל אלמנה ויתום לא תענון, אם עונה תענה אותו, כי אם צעוק יצעוק אלי, שמוע אשמע צעקתו, וחרה אפי והרגתי אתכם בחרב, ויהי נשיכם אלמנות ובניכם יתומים, אם כסף תלווה את עמי, את העני עמך עמך, לא תהיה לו כנושא, לא תשימון עליו נשך, אם חבול תחבול שלמת ריחה, עד בוא השמש תשיבנו לו, כי היא כסותו לבדה, היא שמלתו לאורו, במה ישכב היה כי יצחק אלי, ושמעתי כי חנון אני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chai olam natah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yamod.
Nachman ben Avraham Alchunen.
Nachman ben Avram Alchunen. Aliyah Chamishit. The fifth Aliyah can be found, chapter 22, verse 27, page 470.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
אמן. אלוהים לא תקלל ונשיא בעמך לא תאור, מלאתך ודמעך לא תאחר, בכור בניך תיתן לי, כן תעשה לשורך לצונך, 7 ימים יהיה עממו, ביום השמיני תיתן לי, ואנשי קודש תהיון לי, ובשר בשדה טרפה לא תאכלו, לכלב תשליכון אותו, לא תישא שם השווא אל תשת ידך, אם רשע להיות עת חמאס, לא תהיה אחרי רבים לראות ולא תענה על ריב, לנטות אחרי רבים להוטות, ודל לא תדר בריבו, כי תפגע שור אויבך או חמורו, טועה השב תשיבנו בו, כי תראה חמור שונאך רובץ תחת מסעו, וחידלת מעזוב לו, עזוב תעזוב עמו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amod. Dan ben Moshe v'Rivka. Aliyah Shishit. The sixth Aliyah can be found on page 472, chapter 23, verse 6.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחרנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. לא תוטה משפט אביונך בריבו, מדבר שקר תרחק, ונקי וצדיק אל תהרוג, כי לא אצדיק רשע, ושוחד לא תיקח, כי השוחד יעבר פיקחים, ויסלף דברי צדיקים, וגר לא תלחץ, ואתם ידעתם את נפש הגר, כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים, ושש שנים תזרע את ארצך, ואספת את תבואתה, והשביעית תשמעתנה ונטשת, ואכלו אביוני עמך, ויתרם תאכל חיית השדה, כן תעשה לכרמך לזיתך, ששת ימים תעשה מעשיך, וביום השביעית תשבות, למען ינוח שורך וחמורך, וינפש בין אמתך והגר, ובכל אשר אמרתי עליכם תשמרו, ושם אלוהים אחרים לא תזכירו, לא יישמע על פיך.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yamod. Kalman ben Abraham. Shvi'i, the Aliyah Shvi'i, the seventh Aliyah can be found on page 473, chapter 23, verse 14.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ato Adonai Baruch Ato Hamvarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'atan lanu et torato. Baruch Ato Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
שלוש רגלים תחוג לי בשנה, את חג המצות תשמור, 7 ימים תאכל מצות כאשר ציוויתיך למועד חודש האביב, כי בו יצאת ממצרים, ולא יראו פני ריקם, וחג הקציר בקורי מעשיך, אשר תזרע בשדה, וחג האסיף בצאת השנה, באוספך את מעשיך מן השדה 3 פעמים בשנה יראה כל זכורך אל פני האדון אדוני לא תזבח על חמץ דם זבחי ולא ילין חלב חגי עד בוקר ראשית ביקורי אדמתך תביא בית אדוני אלוהיך לא תבשל גדי וחלב עמו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בחיינו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. We're about to open the ark for the healing prayer. While we're doing the healing prayer, how we will wrap the first Torah and prepare the second Torah for reading. I just wanted to share something with you all right before we open the ark, which is there's a prayer for undergoing a life-threatening moment and surviving, and that prayer is called the Gomel blessing. And occasionally people tell me, oh, I was in a car accident and I survived. Can I please bench Gomel this Shabbos? Or people say, I just came back from an overseas trip. Can I please bench Gomel? I was just talking to my uncle Erwin Tenenbaum, and my Aunt Marta yesterday, and they shared with me that at their congregation, every Shabbos, they bench Gomel, and they mark the occasion of anybody who has received their second vaccine that week, their second COVID vaccination, gets to have their name announced, and is as part of the Gomel blessing, which they do every week. They attend a Reformed congregation. It is very common in many Reformed congregations to do the Gomel blessing every week, regardless of whether there's a particular person who asks for it, and it's more of a communal Gomel than it is of an individual Gomel. I think there's something very powerful about marking that moment where you received your second COVID vaccination. So, I'm sharing with all of you that I think this is a brilliant and beautiful spiritual moment. I myself received my second COVID vaccination not this past week, but last Wednesday, a week and a half ago. I was given the opportunity to have the COVID vaccinations because of my role as clergy and my role attending as a chaplain at Ellis Hospital, and also as a community leader. Somebody in Schenectady County thought that it would be a good idea for community leaders to model taking the vaccine. So I am incredibly grateful that I was able to receive that vaccination. And at this moment of doing the healing prayer, I just wanted to also invite us to say to Gomel, and for you to include yourself if you have received one or both doses of the vaccine this past week. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel l'chayavim tovot shegmalani kol tov. I meant to say the page number, which is page 402. There's a communal response in the middle of page 402. Mi shegmalchem kol tuv, hu yigmalchem kol tuv selah. The ark is now open for the healing prayer. Please rise. Mi shebeirach avotenu nekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Beiracha between Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Yivkar, Achov, Leah, Yivarech, V'yarpei, Etzacholim. Et Zahava Nechama, Bat Leah Bracha, Vet Michal Ruth, Bat Tova, Vet Malka, Bat Golda, Vet Eric Hurst, Vet Michael Roberts, Vet Linda Pearlstein, Vet Bob Pearlstein, Vet Chaim ben Eliezer ve'Yocheved, vet Omari Gray, vet Yosef ben Fega Malka, vet Yoreh ben Avram Besara, vet Kyle Scheffler, vet Cecilia Lynn, vet Robert Borshowitz, vet Shmuel ben Yudit, vet Ephraim ben Lata Rachala, vet Riva Bela bat Avram Chaim Bereza, vet Stuart Green, vet Yitzchak Dov ben Chana, vet Chana bat Odet, vet Yoshua Abraham ben Chana, vet Yehuda ben Chaya Ita Rachel, vet Mina bat Eliza, vet Menachem ben Ita Leah, vet Binyamin HaKohen, vet Chernaliba bat Golda Chaya, vet Gabriel Mordechai ben Pesi, vet Malka bat Sheva, vet Julia Shantz, vet Fegalea bat Mintasura, vet Dinsa bat Liba, vet Surah, vet Chaya Sara bat Rachel, vet Eliezer Avraham ben Chaim Yehuda, vet Shai Aviyad ben Balfura, vet Zina bat Fegla, vet Yakira bat Vorachana, vet Leah Simcha bat Vorachana, vet Chaya Bracha bat Vorachana, vet Mary Alice Hunt, vet Vorachana bat Dina, vet Eliza bat Dina, vet Bluma bat Gittel, vet Charles ben Evelyn, vet Miriam Batya mi Beit Shemuel, vet Eliyahu ben Rachel, vet Rivka Gittel bat Sarah, vet Shlomo Moshe ben Miriam, vet Yita Masha ben bat Rachel, vet Miriam bat Sarah, vet Chana bat Chaya, vet Gila Manoah bat Bercha Gittel, vet Shalom ben Chaya, vet Bill Bracken, vet Akiva ben Gittel, vet Miriam bat Malka, vet Eliyahu ben Malka, vet Risha, vet Shoshana bat Chana, vet Zev Reuven ben Chloe, vet Shlomo Yosef ben Avraham, vet Rochel bat Avram Tzvi, vet Andrew Francis Parisi, vet Sharon Nachama bat Reuven Berezel, vet Rachel bat Salman v'Chaya, vet David ben Yehudit, vet vet Kol HaKolim B'Kila Kedusha Zot HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem Lachzikam L'Rapotam V'Yishlach Lehem Meira Refuah Shem Amin HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Refuat HaGuf B'Tok Shar Cholei Yisrael V'Ha'olam V'Chazek Yedidei HaOzkim B'Tzor Chayhem Shabbat Yimil Zok V'Harefuah Krava Lavo Hashta B'Agalav Izman Kariv V'Nomar Amen Mi Shebeirach Imotenu Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabbah. Me'amad divak yirtei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechonu v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael v'agala u'bizman kariv imeru Amen. Yesh mei Rabbah mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yifar v'yitramam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei kedusha b'richu leila min kol brechata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiran me'alma v'imeru Amen. We turn now to the Maftir Aliyah, which can be found, you may be seated, which can be found on page 523. Page 523. This is the special Maftir for Shabbat Shekalim, the first of our four special Haftarot before, special Maftir readings before Passover. This one, which comes from the just a few parshiot from now, Parashat Kitisa, discusses the half shekel tax that every Israelite was supposed to bring. So a half shekel is a very small amount. The idea being there are some mitzvot which are incumbent more on people with more wealth than on people with less wealth. But this mitzvah is incumbent on everybody equally and was used as a form of census. The half shekel was used to support Jewish communal institutions, that is to say, the functioning of the Mishkan in the desert and the tabernacle and the temple in Jerusalem when there was a temple in Jerusalem. It is therefore customary in the weeks leading up to Passover to make sure that you're up to date on your synagogue dues, that you are supporting Jewish communal institutions, that you are going into the Passover holiday debt-free. Now, this is separate from the obligation to give specific tzedakah, specific charity, matanot levyonim, gifts to those in need, as part of the Purim holiday, which we began collecting in our congregation as of yesterday, Rosh Chodesh Adar. And anybody who would like to have their Purim charity given on the day of Purim itself as part of our congregation's gifts of matanot levyonim, please do make a donation to the Rabbi's Discretionary Fund over the course of the next few weeks, with the note matanot levyonim in the memo, and those will all be donated on Purim day to fulfill your mitzvah of matanot levyonim. The half shekel, the chatzi shekel, is actually something separate. It's about supporting Jewish communal institutions to be able to do the important work that the Jewish communal institutions do. We have in our community many really significant and important Jewish communal institutions that have done some really tremendous work in responding to the pandemic, in responding to the current moment in which we live. And I hope that you consider, as part of your regular charitable giving, those institutions, our federation, the Jewish Family Services, our JCCs, and of course, Congregation Agudat Achim, which I think has been doing a really tremendous job. This idea of everybody contributes a little bit so that we all have institutions that work, that's a really tremendous idea, and it comes right straight from our holy text from Parashat Ki Tisa. We turn to page 523 for the special maftir for Shabbat Shkalim. Yamod
Mordechai ben Chanoch v'Bela.
Mordechai ben Chanoch v'Bela likriyat haftara.
Baruch et Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai Morach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Morach le'olam va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bacha banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, ki tisa et rosh bnei Yisrael lifkudehem, v'natnu ish kofer nafsho l'Adonai bifkodotam, v'lo yihye bahem negef bifkodotam, zeyidnu kol ha'over al ha'pkudim, machatzit ha'shekel b'shekel ha'kodesh, 20 gerah ha'shekel, machatzit ha'shekel teruma l'Adonai, Kol ha'over al ha'pkudim mivein 20 shana v'mala yitain terumat Adonai Adonai ha'ashir lo yarbe v'hadal lo yimat ממחצית השקל לתת את תרומת אדוני לכפר על נפשותיכם ולקחת את כסף הכיפורים את בני ישראל ונתת אותו על עבודת אוהל מועד, והיה לבני ישראל לזיכרון לפני אדוני, לכפר על נפשותיכם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. How he's going to wrap the second Torah scroll from Parashat Ki Tisa, and then we are going to turn to our Haftarah, which can be found on page 1277, page 1277, which is drawn from the book of 2 Kings, and contains a description of the taxes, the machatzit shekel, the special tax that was levied by one of the kings and his priests in the annals of history of the Jewish Israelite and Judean kings. They offered this machatzita shekel in order to fund their Jewish communal project. That's why when I say that it's for Jewish communal reasons, it's not just from this passage in Exodus, but also from this passage in 2 Kings. It's also sometimes customary when Rosh Chodesh falls on Shabbat to do the first and last verses of the Shabbat Rosh Chodesh reading. I'm not sure whether that's Murray's custom. Some folks do and some folks don't. But you can follow along on page 1277.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנביאים טובים ורצה בדבריהם נאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת והצדק. בן 7 שנים יהואש במלכו, בשנת 7 להו מלך יהואש, ו40 שנה מלך בירושלים, בשם אמו צביה מבאר שבע. ויעש יהואש הישר בעיני אדוני כל ימיו, אשר הורהו יהוידע הכהן. רק הבמות לא סרו עוד העם, מזבחים ומקטרים במות. ויאמר יהוה של הכהנים כה, כסף הקדשים אשר יובא בית אדוני, כסף עובר איש, כסף נשות ערכו. כל כסף אשר יעלה על איש להביא בית אדוני. ייקחו להם הכהנים איש מאת מכות, והם יחזקו את בדק הבית לכל אשר ימצא שם בדק. ויהי בשנת 23 שנה למלך יהואש, לא חזקו הכהנים את בדק הבית, ויקרא המלך יהואש ליהוידע הכהן לכהנים, ויאמר עליהם מדוע אינכם מחזקים את בדק הבית, ועתה אל תיקחו כסף מאת מקריכם, לבדק הבית תתנו. וית הכהנים ובלתי קחת כסף מאת העם, ובלתי חזק את בדך הבית. ויקח יהוידע הכהן ארון אחד, ויקובחו בדלתו, ויתן אותו אצל המזבח מימין, ובו איש בית אדוני, ונתנו שם הכהנים שומרי הסף, את כל הכסף המובא בית אדוני, ויהי יוקר אותם, כי רב הכסף בארון. ויעל סופר המלך הכהן הגדול, ויצאו וימנו את הכסף הנמצא בית אדוני, ונתנו את הכסף המתוקן על ידי עושי המלאכה המופקדים בית אדוני, ויוציאו לחורשי העץ ולבונים העושים בית אדוני, לגודרים לחוצבי האבן, ולקנות עצים ויבנה מחצב, לחזק את בדק בית אדוני, וכל אשר יצא על הבית לחוזקם, אך לא יעשה בית אדוני מזבחות כסף, מזמרות, מזרקות, חצות, צרורות, כל כלי זהב וכלי כסף, מן הכסף המובא בית אדוני, כי לא עושי המלאכה יתנו, וחזקו בו את בית אדוני, ויחשבו את האנשים אשר יתנו את הכסף על ידם, לתת לעושי המלאכה, כי באמונה הם עושים. כסף אשם וכסף חטאת, לא יובא בית אדוני, לכהנים יהיו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל עמים, צדיק וחדות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה אדוני אלוהינו ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך, אכול לא ישוב ריקם. כל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו, ועלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ומלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו. על כיסאו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל עבודה והנביאים ביום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ותפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. Colden, would you like to lead us in Ashrei? Page 420. Colden will lead us in Ashrei. Page 420. Yasher Koach to Murray for leading us in the Haftarah, and to Howie for reading, for chanting Torah. Page 420.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha od yelu hasela. Tila l'Raviv armim haha hamelev v'rahashim halel amvad.
בכל יום אבחר קרא שמך לעולם.
Gadol Adonai u'ma'ameyod b'liglato ein heker. Hadar kivod hodecha v'divrei niflotecha asiha. Zecher aftu hayabiyu v'sikat hayiraneinu. Tov Adonai la'akol v'rahama v'kol ma'asav. Kivod malchuteha yomeru guad hayiraberu. Malchuteha malchut kol amimu memshatecha bechol dor vador.
Somech Adonai lechol hanoflim, v'chef lechol hakufim.
Einei kol lecha yisaberu ve'yotano tin lahem et akwam beito.
Poteach et yadecha, u'masbiya lechol chayrecha.
Tzadik Adonai bechol derevha v'sit bechol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai lechol korab, kol asher yikra'u v'emer.
Ritzon yirya v'yaseh v'yet shavatan mishma v'yoshiyim.
Tomer Adonai et kol oavav, v'kol rishayim yash.
Tilot Adonai daper pi yivarech kol basar shikon shalom aved.
Vanach nevarech yame'ata v'adolam, hallelujah. We rise for the service for returning the Sifrei Torah to the Ark, page 422. Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren leyamo, tehila lechol chasidav, libnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We continue individually on page 424. Mizmor leDavid. Adonai oz le'amo yitin, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Page 426. Uvnucho yom ha'shuva. Adonai rucho Yisrael. Etayim hi lamagazikim ba netom meyusha terachem darveinom v'chonetivoteam Shalom, Hashiveinu You may be seated. It's my pleasure at this time to invite Roberta Steiner to offer a Devar Torah, some words, teachings of Torah, in honor of this Shabbat being in conjunction with the National Council for Jewish Women and congregations all across the country, a Shabbat in commemoration of and in honor of reproductive justice, Repro Shabbat.
Thank you, Rabbi. Isaiah says, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression. In Proverbs 31, here it is said that everyone has the God-given rights of life and liberty that is free from all forms of oppression and injustice. Zechariah exhorts God's people to administer true justice, show mercy and compassion to one another. Micha says, and everyone is familiar with this quote, "He has told you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice and to love goodness and walk modestly with your God." Welcome to Reproductive Justice Shabbat. Now some may think, reproductive Shabbat, she's talking about abortion. And they would be partially correct. A person's reproductive health is not only access to safe and legal abortions, although that is a small part of it. It is important that we do not isolate abortion from the totality of a person's health and life. Reproductive justice looks at the whole person and their entire set of circumstances, from age to class to race to religion to sexual orientation. Reproductive justice is about all people, women, men, gay, transgender, non-conforming binary, of all races, ethnicities, and religions. It is the complete physical, mental, spiritual, political, social, and economic well-being of people based on the full achievement and protection of their human rights. We need to ensure that all people have the right to have a child, the right not to have a child, and the right to parent the children they have. Reproductive justice framework analyzes how the ability of a person to determine their own reproductive destiny is linked directly to conditions in their community. And these conditions are not just a matter of individual choice and access. One of the key problems addressed by reproductive justice is the isolation of abortion from other social justice issues that concern communities of color. Issues of economic justice, the environment, exploitation of individuals through their bodies, sexuality, labor, and reproduction, rather than a narrow focusing on protecting the legal right to abortion. Instead of focusing on the means, reproductive justice focuses on the ends: better lives of individuals, healthier families, and sustainable communities. The last 2 years have seen increasingly hostile attacks on reproductive autonomy and rights. Decades after the U.S. Supreme Court established the fundamental right to contraception and abortion, these critical rights are at stake and being openly challenged. In many parts of the United States and around the world, people have only a theoretical right to sexual and reproductive autonomy. Restrictive laws and policies have made it virtually impossible to access the information, services, and providers people need to care for their health and well-being. That's why a coalition of more than 90 organizations came together to develop a visionary policy agenda that boldly proclaims that for people to be free and equal, they must be able to exercise complete autonomy over their bodies. The Blueprint for Sexual and Reproductive Health, Justice, and Rights lays out a broad vision for the future that includes forward-thinking ideas to transform sexual and reproductive health as basic and fundamental measures to correct the backtracking that has taken place in recent years. The Blueprint is a starting point that is intended to provide the scaffolding from which additional policies can be developed. The first principle, ensure that sexual and reproductive health care is accessible to all people. Second, to ensure discriminatory barriers in health care are eliminated. Third, is to ensure that research and innovation advance sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice now and in the future. And fourth, it is to ensure health, rights, justice, and wellness for all communities. Access to abortion care domestically and globally must be protected and expanded. The ability to decide if, when, and how to have children or grow a family is fundamental to personal autonomy. Indeed, a right is merely theoretical when care is inaccessible or unaffordable. Legislation must be passed to ensure coverage for abortion and contraception in private and government-funded insurance plans and programs, and ending the Hyde Amendment, which withholds abortion coverage, except in limited cases, from those qualified and enrolled in Medicaid, and from our military service members. Furthermore, Congress must end the Helms Amendment, which unjustly restricts federal global funding from not only covering abortion care, but providing financial aid to healthcare facilities that provide family planning or refer patients to a facility that does. In 2012, episode of Fault Lines, Al Jazeera English's long-running documentary series about fractious political issues in the U.S., correspondent Zena Awad interviews Jim Bushey, an Ohio state representative who had co-sponsored Ohio's heartbeat bill. At first, he speaks very assuredly about abortion policy. He believes in the sanctity of life and favors laws that will reduce or eliminate abortion. But he is less assured when Awad asks him, "What do you think makes a woman want to have an abortion?" Bushey pauses. He squirms in his chair. "Well, I'm not a woman, so I can't." He chuckles at his awkward attempt at a joke. I'm thinking now, if I am a woman, why would I want to get... He looks heavenward, as if looking for the answer. I don't know. It's a question I've never even thought about. And that is a question most people, especially lawmakers, should but don't think about. But some researchers did think about it. And last year, the Turnaway study was published by Dr. Diana Green Foster, led the quest for the answer to that question and to investigate how abortion affects women by comparing those who get an abortion and those who want one but don't get it, those who get turned away. It is a 10-year study involving more than 40 researchers, over 1,000 women seeking abortion at 30 facilities across the U.S. The study documents the emotional health, physical health, socioeconomic outcomes. The participants are interviewed twice a year, up to 5 years. They are asked about their emotional, mental, and physical health. They are asked about their life goals, their aspirations, their financial well-being, and the health and development of their children. They are asked about the quality of their intimate relationships. They are asked why it took some of them so long to finally arrive at the clinic. It is a fascinating read that answers the why asked by Awad of Mr. Bushey. It is a great injustice for a man, a politician, a stranger, to impose important health care decisions on a woman he has never met or heard about, or to tell a woman what to do with her body. And that brings me to Purim. We all know the story. Ahasuerus is having a party with his courtiers, friends, nobles. They drink, they eat, they carouse, they drink some more. The king wants to show off the body of his gorgeous wife. He sends a servant to fetch her. Vashti doesn't get credit for her brave stand. It's her body, not his to show off. She claims autonomy over her body. Reproductive justice is about a person having autonomy over their bodies. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach to Roberta for sharing important words, impassioned words of the importance of this justice issue, reproductive justice. I think we should be talking about issues like reproductive justice more in our congregation, in our congregational life, from the Bima. There are definitely in our congregation a multiplicity of opinions and approaches about how specifically to leverage broader societal institutions toward the goal of achieving reproductive justice, and also a broad spectrum of folks about what reproductive justice means. For more about my point of view about why I think it's important that we should be talking about it from the Bima more, about why I think it's important that different points of view are respected and brought out, I encourage you to read the op-ed that was published yesterday in the Daily Gazette, Schenectady, that I wrote on the topic of talking more about issues, difficult issues from the Bima. So thank you so much to Roberta for sharing your words of Torah with us. And we continue with the Musaf service for Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh, which can be found on page 428, Chatzi Kaddish, followed by the Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh Amidah, which begins on page 486, page 486, and follow the signposts for specifically Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh. The beginning of that section of the Amidah starts with Ata Yatzarta Olamcha Mikerem. It's a beautiful, beautiful poetic rendering of the importance of Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh together. We rise, page 428. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabbah ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael b'agala v'zman kariv imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach li'alam le'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramah minaseh v'yitadar v'yidoleh v'yidolach v'yivrisha brichu le'ila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasei Avot U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'Neihem L'man Shemo V'Yahava Melech Ozer U'Pokei U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham U'Pokei Sarah Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Metzim Atarav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGeshem Mechakel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye Metzim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar micha mocha bal gevurot, umido melech, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'emanat al hachayot metim baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hametim. Naritzcha v'nakdishcha kisod siach sarfei kodesh hamakdishim shimcha b'kodesh kakatuv al yad miyacha v'karazel zeh ve'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai tzivot meloch haaretz kivodo, kivodo Malei olam misharetzav shualim ze laze ayemekom kivodo Lumatam baruch yomeru Baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo Mimkomo hu yifem brachamim yachonam am yachadim shemo erev v'boker b'chol yom tamid pamayim b'ava shema omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Hu Yashmienu Berachamav Sheni B'nei Kochai Liolachem Le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem U'divrei Kodecha Katuv Le'mor Imloch Adonai Imloch Adonai Le'olam Elohai Tzion Ledor Vador Hallelujah Ledor Vador Yigodecha L'netzach Netzachim K'vishatcha Naktish V'shivchacha Eloheinu Mipino Lemush Le'olam Va'ed Ki Amelech Kadosh V'kadosh Ata Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh Ata Yatzachim you haven't completed your individual whispered Amidah, please continue davening. We join together for Kaddish Shalem, page 506. Yitkadal v'kadash mei rabba, Na'amad v'agar David, Michmag v'dei v'chayach v'loi v'machon v'chayach v'chol b'it Yisrael, Ba'galar zman kariv imru amen. Yesh mei rabba mevarach, le'alam lal me'al maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalash mei l'kudisha, p'richu. Le'elam min kol b'chadav v'shirata, tishb'chadav v'nachmata, damiran v'ama v'imru amen. Titkabal, tzot v'adon d'chol Yisrael, kodam v'avon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yesh lamar ba min shmaya v'chayim olina v'kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imrama, v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to Congregation Agudat Achim's in-person and live stream Shabbat morning service. My name is Rabbi Rafi Spitzer. It's a pleasure to join with you this Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh to celebrate Repro Shabbat together. A big Yasher Koach to Alexandra Schmidt for leading us in Shacharit and Hallel, to Howie Middleman for reading Torah and the special Torah reading for Shekalim, to Murray for chanting the Haftarah, and to Roberta Steiner for offering words of Torah. The congregation celebrates with the following individuals who are having a birthday this week: Judith Kraut, Nat Goldstein, Jacqueline Hollander, Fran Abrams, Adina Mincer, Annette Daniels, Sherry Gold, and Paulina Pasileva, and a special Mazel Tov to Ruth Siegel, who is celebrating this Thursday her 90th birthday. Mazel Tov. We also celebrate with Stephanie and Stephen Schechter, who are celebrating their anniversary this Tuesday. Mazel Tov to all of those who I mentioned, and to everybody who is celebrating something in their lives this week. We continue with Aleinu, page 510. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, v'teikelu la liotzer rishti, v'lo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu b'nishmachot ha'adama, v'lo sam kamin yifmahem, v'gor aleinu kechol ha'amunam. V'anachu tovim, u'mishtachavim odim, lifnei melech malchei halavim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehu noteh shamayim, shehu noteh shamayim, v'yoseh haaretz, u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim imah, u'shchinatu zo, b'gavei meramim, Hu Eloheinu Einon, Emet Malkeinu Afesulato, Kakatu V'Torato, V'yadata Yom Hashivota Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, B'shamayim Imal, V'al Haaretz, Mitachad, Heinon, Al Kei Nekava L'Chadonel. V'nemar v'yadonai l'melech al kol haaretz, v'yomahu Yadonai echad u'shmo echad. Congregation honors the memories of the following individuals who have gone to their eternal rest: Goldie Levinson, Richard Polatsky, Erwin Gerson, Bernard Mullen, Menachem Siegel, Bersutsky Getel Benumovna, Albert Friedman, Anna Jacobs, Robert Levine, Doris Stone, Lucia Dubrovskaya, Gladys Golub, Pauline Goldstein, Joseph Goodman, Samuel Merrims, Sarah Sobolski, and Dorothy Stein. In solemn testimony to that unbroken chain of faith which links one generation of the house of Israel to the next, those who mourn and those who are observing Yartzeit now rise to magnify and sanctify God's name with the words of Kaddish Avelim, Mourner's Kaddish, page 512. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma Divra Kirutei, Ve'amlich Malchutei, V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam Alamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Dekudesha B'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Mimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Jackie's going to offer some announcements on behalf of the congregation.
Coming up this week, we have on Wednesday, we have the third class from Jonathan Weil's Origins of Modern Art and Its Biblical Connections and Influences in the Work of Modern Jewish Artists. On Thursday is the second of the Scholar in Your Residence, Judaism and Science. If you missed it this past Thursday night, it was very interesting. Rabbi's Back to Basics continues tomorrow morning at 9:30. And next week on Wednesday during the Healthy Living Group, there's a special guest speaker, Dr. Cheryl Spitzer-Resnick, and she'll be discussing how minimizing inflammation through diet, stress reduction, and supplementation for nutrition deficiencies can help one to achieve optimal health and resilience. If you would like the link to that, you can call the office and Josh will take care of that for you. Coming up is a whole bunch of really cool stuff for Purim, and it came to you this past week in an email. And so you can check the email for information, but on Sunday the 21st is the Mishloach Manot drive-through pickup, and it's a mass car raid. So look for information on that. That's going to be really fun too. And Shabbat Shalom.
We go to rabbinical school for those plans. Just kidding. We conclude our service this morning with Adon Olam, page 514. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ei nasa b'chevzo kol hazai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot kol levado yimloch nora Behu haya, behu hovem, behu yiyeh betifara, behu echad, be'en shehi. Le'amshilo le'hachbira, be'li reshit, be'li tachlit, ve'lo ha'oz ve'ha'misra, behu eli, haigo avi. Betzor chavli beyetzara, ve'unisi umanosli, menat kosi beyom ekra, beyado hafkidruchi, be'tishan ve'yaira, ve'imruchi geviyati, Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat Shalom.